Welcome to Orange Grove 55.
Oh, our good friend Jay Sherer of the Story Geeks. Shout out to Jay, by the way. He is amazing. We love Jay. Subscribe to his channel. He does phenomenal content from a writer's perspective, and it really is interesting stuff. I to this day, Jay, I love your video that you did on Darth Vader, like why Darth Vader is scary. And it was kind of recently, like a few weeks ago when the Kenobi series was out. I absolutely love that video, Jay. Top notch, my friend, top notch. But his question is, what's the most exciting thing in your mind happening in the theme parks in the next 5 years? Dre, next 5 years, what's the most exciting thing, dude?
I think, oh man, that's an interesting thing. 5 years, right? Well, and the difficulty is like you have to separate, because we all kind of want stuff for our home parks. You know, so what may be very exciting for one person might not be exciting for somebody in Japan, for instance, right? Because it's like, you know, we all kind of have that kind of home park base, and we kind of want to, you know, see those things come to fruition, stuff like that. What's the most exciting thing? That's a very interesting thing. I think what excites me most, and again, it's that home park bias. I'm really excited about what happens at the Disneyland Resort in the next 5 years, to be honest with you. And we do have, by the way, let me see if I can find it here, because I just opened a window here featuring it. Yeah, we do have some kind of clarity on what might be going on with the parking lot project that we were talking about here in the kind of the downtown Disney parking lot north of the property, just south of Mickey and Friends parking structure and Pixar Palace parking structure. It looks like it is just going to be some improvement work for this parking lot. That's it. They're creating new boxes here for planters and so forth. This is courtesy of Walt Disney World News Today. Right here, it looks like it's going to be something pretty benign. So it's so
what you're saying, Dre, is this is your number one most hyped thing for the next 5 years?
100%. I want to see this parking lot in its pristine form. Honestly, I've been looking at this parking lot for quite some time. The asphalt's been chewed up and everything. I really do. Honestly, the next 5 years, out of all the things that WDI is currently doing right now, this right here excites me the most. No, joking. Can't even say that with a straight face, but Disneyland Resort really excites me, like it really does. Yeah. But as far as like the whole like cohesive package or whatever, have you seen that fantasy section of Tokyo Disney Seas coming up? Like it looks ridiculous. Like that right there.
Out of everything that they were working on overseas, like that excited me more than what Hong Kong is doing. And
yes,
Tokyo is. I'm never surprised, but yet they always catch me off guard of what they have up their sleeve.
Oh, it is ridiculous. This expansion is totally blowing my mind here. Like in terms of the quality, the detail, it's just some of the stuff. You know, George, we were having this conversation about like, you know, the new Fantasyland as it was announced by Jay Rasulo back in the day, right? And what that could entail. Oh, you know, what are the things that you could possibly do with that? You know, the mind just works a billion miles a second here, trying to figure it out. And I think the kind of expectation that we had going into that project before we actually saw the art and everything like that, a lot of the stuff that Tokyo Disney Seas is doing is what we kind of had in our mind, right? What was possible with this kind of new generation of Imagineers with a unlimited budget and taking these historical type films, right, from different generations of animated film and kind of bringing them to life in these brand new ways. Honestly, really, really, really exciting. I'd say, you know, maybe stateside, if maybe that doesn't excite you, you know, Epic Universe is really kind of exciting. And not just because of what Universal's doing, but for maybe the implications it has for the entire themed community in Orlando, Florida specifically, right? We've talked about how, hey, when Universal wins, even Disney fans win, because a lot of times that means that other people, that Walt Disney World has to compete with that and has to bring stuff to the forward and has to announce their own plans in terms of how to respond to those things. If Universal, Epic Universe is really, really successful, that is likely what will happen. So that's a really exciting thing too. But there's a lot of exciting things happening in these theme spaces. But from my standpoint, with my personal bias, I don't know. Disneyland Resort really excites me, especially with the number of different projects that are in the works right now.
I really, I have major home park bias, like unbelievable home park bias, and I will be the first to admit it. I am all about the Disneyland Resort, but I don't want our friends in Orlando to be left out either. I'm not like, but I really want to see in the next 5 years. I really want to see some sort of movement on Disneyland Forward. I really want to see Disney Land Resort expand beyond kind of its current. I mean, not really. Well, yeah, kind of like beyond its current perimeters. I know that like the Disneyland, Forward thing is about like kind of rezoning current land. But in terms of like the theme parks go, it would be expanding those perimeters. I really want to see that. I really, really do. Because you look, and I've said this many times, people at home, look, if Disney cannot grow beyond its current boundaries for these theme parks, eventually they're going to look inward. And what does that mean? They're going to start looking at current attractions they can retheme or demolish, and in an attempt to kind of expand, right? So like if they can't go beyond the borders that they currently have, they're going to look towards the Tiki Room, or they're going to look towards this attraction or that attraction to demolish or retheme because they have no choice. Disneyland Forward needs to happen. If you want to keep the current roster of attractions and grow beyond that, we need to grow physically beyond what we have now. Otherwise, eventually we will dig into what we're going to cannibalize our own stuff. And I don't want to see that. I want to keep Tiki Room. I want to keep Pirates. I want to keep these attractions, but at the same time, I want to grow and get new stuff. And the best way to do that is through programs or whatever initiatives through like Disneyland Forward. And that's what I'm really looking forward to the most. Next 5 years, I really want to see Disneyland Forward or some iteration of that approved, ready to go. I want to see some movement on that. That would really, really, man, that would excite me, dude. I'd be on here every single day talking about that and through videos and everything. I just that whole idea of expanding the Disneyland Resort is really, really exciting to me. What do you think, George, in terms of the next 5 years, theme parks, Florida, Anaheim, international parks? What's the most exciting stuff for you personally?
Well, for me, I mean, to also echo what you guys were saying, I am very curious to see what the Disneyland Resort has in store, because for many years, it's always been the Walt Disney World show. Disneyland was always taking the back seat on everything. So it's sort of kind of nice to see the OG park getting the TLC that it really does deserve. So I will say that. Aside from that, I am very curious to see what's going to go on within the next 5 years with Animal Kingdom, because Vash and I have been talking about this with a lengthy conversation that they always like to rotate the parks. Magic Kingdom, we're pretty much safe to say they're good to go. They're going to be getting Tron. Epcot is in the construction phase with the Moana section and more of what the future world section used to be with interventions. And then, Hollywood Studios with Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land. But I think that's the other park that will have to need some more meat on those bones. But the next one up is going to be Animal Kingdom, because the last big thing was Pandora, and that was back in 2017. So Animal Kingdom is due, and I think a lot of people are kind of honing in on that Dino Land USA section as being the next replacement for that park.
And as I was talking to George about when it came to this discussion, I think the investment in Florida going forward will be very cyclical. I think it'll be very much like, hey, we're going to do Animal Kingdom, Disney's Hollywood Studios, and Epcot. Now, Epcot's getting the attention that some of these things are starting to go in. I know it's been like, speed is have to speed a snail, basically, is in terms of these investments going into Epcot. But now that we're starting to finally kind of get the wheels cranking on this, kind of understanding what we're going to do here, now I think that's going to revolve around to the very beginning. I think Disney's Animal Kingdom is going to be the next place here where significant investment might be laid, whether that be in the form of an Avatar expansion or something else. Maybe Zootopia. I think George and I have kind of like pretty much that's going to be it right there. Now with Joe already out of the way, it becomes kind of the most obvious thing to add, especially because Shanghai Disneyland's getting their own version of Zootopia. Chapek likes to do it, likes to double that ROI. You can't just have one, got to be two, right? So I think you can go ahead and kind of theorize that. I think it's a safe bet. By the way, George, we were going to have a video about this, but we didn't actually get a chance to. But the Carnotaurus audio animatronic is working again right there in Dino Land. So maybe that attraction itself is safe from investment. Maybe the surrounding area is getting affected. I don't know, but I think once Disney's Animal Kingdom has investment thrown its way, I think it'll go to Disney Hollywood Studios again, and we'll kind of go on this kind of revolving path here with Magic Kingdom spread out, throwing a bone every once in a while, right?
Yeah.
Which maybe in the form of Splash Mountain or something else.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the future there. It's interesting, OG, to your point about Disneyland Forward, right?
Yeah.
The big thing that kind of surprised everybody about that whole thing was connected to those that 2% entrance tax, right? That they, that came before the city council. I believe, what was it, Jose Morenas or
Moreno.
Moreno, sorry, I do apologize. Jose Moreno had forwarded that kind of motion there and saying, oh, well, it's going to be a 2% tax, but we can omit Anaheim residents from it and stuff. And it's like, how's that going to work? And it just seemed to be untenable and feasible. And, especially in a place like, California, who loves its taxes. And on the kind of we're still kind of handling the fallout of the mayor of Anaheim being ousted like he was, the FBI investigation and so forth. We kind of thought that the 2% tax, maybe that was necessarily connected to Disneyland Forward as kind of a make good by the city council as they sit for what happened in those investigations and so forth. And I don't know, with them striking down that tax, that was a very surprising move there. So maybe Disneyland Forward maybe isn't as dead as we think it is. Maybe that's a reflection of, hey, listen, even though it's Disneyland wanting to do something in Anaheim, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad for the city. And really, it's just rezoning. That's really what it comes down to. Do they have the right to do what they want with their own property? I think yes, they do, and I think a city councilman could make the argument that, like, hey, listen, there has been impropriety, right, between these certain entities, right? But just because Disneyland gets their way in this instance doesn't make it bad for the city. With new investment comes new jobs, new opportunities for Anaheim, and I think people might still be in that kind of headspace of, hey, with Disneyland shut down as it was, that really did hurt the city. And so if they want to invest in their property, that's good for the city. And I think you could make that argument there.